Hi, once again, this is Brother Teacher. I want to share something with you today about love. Did a video uh, here recently about people loving you and the love is not reciprocated. But this is not a spin on that per se. It is still about love, and it's love for everyone, especially family, and how we find that that's missing nowadays. I want to share this with you. When I was a child, one of the most important, if not the most important thing uh, that I could associate with my childhood was that I was loved. My brother and I were loved. My mother and my father, that I found out about years later, he truly did love me, and my mother did indeed love my brother and I. My aunts and uncles and cousins, my grandparents, they loved us, and we loved them in return. And it was not taboo. It was not something that was made up. It was genuine, and never really had anything to compare it to as being a counterpart, so to speak. It's just simply what it was. It's something that we saw every day. We woke up to it. A breakfast in the morning. Our mother would buy us clothing for school and just clothing in general. My mother would buy us toys and various things that we needed, and we would even uh, be allowed to go to the movie theater and to the park and things of this nature. And one of the greatest, uh, I guess you can say, uh, examples of love that my mother showed us was not in the physical things, not in the aesthetics, as it were, not in material things. It was a hug and a kiss. I said it. When my mother held me, and I'm speaking of myself, my brother's no longer here, but I'm speaking for me. There was something about being held that made me feel safe, made me feel of value, made me feel validated as a human being and as a child at that time. And to this very day, my mother still hugs me and gives me a kiss, and I return the same because that's my mother. That is the human being that is responsible for bringing me into this world and for me to be able to even sit here and speak to you. Even though some people may not want to hear some of the subject matter that I present, just the same, I'm here because of my mother. My mother could have aborted me, but she didn't. My mother always encouraged me. You can be great at anything that you set your mind to. Don't hang in the streets. Don't follow the crowd. Be your own person, your own man. My mother always espoused this to me. Be all that you want to be, and nothing can be withheld from you if you truly believe in it. And anytime I was going through any rough patch in the road, so to speak, coming up in relationships, uh, losing a job or being in between jobs, or when I even went into the military, my mom was always there with that calming voice. You hang in there. You're going to make it. I just wanted you to know I love you. That meant the world to me. And to this very day, it continues on. The importance of touching, the importance of embracing. I cannot overemphasize that, ladies and gentlemen. When is the last time those of you that has children, those of you that have a spouse, a mother and a father that's still living, maybe a grandparent that's still living, or someone that in your heart you would give the world for. When is the last time you looked them in the eye and told them, I love you, and embraced them? And in that embrace, you felt all of the problems that you had were not as great as they were. Because there's something about love that covers, like the Bible says, a multitude of problems and or sins. I know we live in a day and a time where we don't see it, we don't witness this thing called love as often as we should. It seems as though the wells are dry. It seems as though it doesn't exist anymore. But it does. Some people just have not tapped into it because the cares and the problems of life, the issues of life, have them caught up, overwhelmed, depressed, and they can't see clear to reach down in the inner reserves of their soul and say, you know what? I'm going to be okay. When someone touches you in a loving way, it makes just for that moment, oftentimes, all of the burdens that you carry on your shoulder feel much lighter. It does, to know that someone genuinely cares about you. Now with that, I want to say this. I mentioned when I was a child that my mother always held us, always told us that she loved us. And so did my grandparents, my other relatives as well. And that's what I owe my personality and my character to a great degree today. The fact that I'm a lover. I'm the type of man that will hug you in a minute, male or female. Now, to some, hearing me say this as a man, you would say, well, you're acting kind of funny there, brother teacher. No, I'm not. What man who has children won't hug and kiss his own children? What man who has a son won't hug and kiss his son, his child? We think, oh, it's immature, it's geeky, it's old-fashioned, it's out of place, it's not manly to kiss your grown child that's a man. But I have no problem with that. You know what? My grown sons today, when they come to see me, see you later, Dad, we will embrace. My son will kiss me on the cheek and say, I love you, Daddy. That means a lot to me. It means the world to me. Both my sons, to include my daughters. But I'm talking about love, period. And I just wanted to make a point of males hugging one another. There's nothing wrong with that. Because if your child was to die as a teenager, your male child, or as an adult, if he was on his sick bed, I am certain that you would hug and kiss that child then. So what's wrong with now? You see, we teach our children at a very young age all of the important qualities that they must possess as an adult. You see, one day your children will have children. And if they have never been taught what love is, and compassion and empathy and even sympathy at a very young age, how can they pass that on to their own children? They can't, because it was never given to them. So they can't feel it. You can tell by an adult's actions how they were as a child. You can tell that they were selfish as a child because they're selfish as adults. You can tell if they have temper issues or if they're impatient. They had those issues as a child. You can tell if they are concerned people about other individuals that may have problems. In other words, do they show compassion? If they do, they did as a child. And when you see a man or a woman who has compassion and love for their fellow man, not just simply their family, then you know that that is the environment that they grew up in. So teach your children, ladies and gentlemen, when they're here, when they're in your arms, bond with them. Teach them love so they can extend and express that same love as they grow older. And then pass that on to their children as well. Because that's one of the things that this world is lacking, it's missing. And that's love. It is the greatest emotion. It is. Not rivaled by any other emotion. Love is the greatest strength. It is the greatest quality that any human being can possess. It's not it's not old fashioned, and it's not out of date. It has been here since we were created. And it's going to be here for the rest of human existence. If you haven't experienced it, you just ought to. If you haven't hugged your significant other recently or in recent years, you just ought to. If you haven't hugged your children in recent years, in recent days, your grown children, your small children even, you just ought to. If you haven't hugged your parents, even if you have been estranged from a father who hasn't been around when you were a child coming up, you just ought to. If your mother hasn't been quite the woman that you felt like she should have been, or if you were abused by a family member and you're holding it against your mom, you should just let it go. Tell her how you feel, hug her, and tell her that you love her. You see, ladies and gentlemen, life is not promised to us. It's not guaranteed that we will see the next day. It's not guaranteed we will be here tomorrow, nor is it guaranteed that we will even see the next moment. Because life is just simply a vapor. We are here for a moment and then we're gone. Nothing is going to stop me from finishing this. I want you to know just how important loving your family is. I think you would appreciate this if you apply it today. You see, if that person that you hold close to your heart were to not be here the next day, you would have to face possibly guilt. And it's too late to say I'm sorry or I love you when they're gone, because we take a lot of things for granted. We honestly do. You know you do. So you have to give people their flowers while they're here. And as I said before, even if there's some schism, there's some division between you and someone else, you need to smash it. You be the better person, the bigger person, and let it go. And when you've done your part, it's finished. The ball is in their court. But when it comes to your heart to say, you know what, big sis, big brother, little brother, mom, dad, auntie, grandma, granddad, you know what, son, you know what, daughter, I love you. And you hug them as if this was your last day on earth. So I'm imploring you right now. I imploring you, and I dare you. Whoever you are under the sound of my voice listening to me right now, I dare you. I'm challenging you today to love someone that you haven't loved in quite a while, and that you haven't loved the way that you should love them. Put all of your indifferences aside and hold on to that individual. Walk up to them today if you can. And if you can't reach them, if you can't touch them right now, you touch them here. You call them on the phone. I'm not talking about a text message. You call them on the phone. And you say, hello, this is so and so. I just wanted to tell you that I love you. That was all I wanted. You were on my mind. And if they're in front of you, if they're in the next room, they're across the street, next door, across town, you get in the vehicle, you travel there. Sometimes you may have to call first. You say, this is so and so. I'm on my way. I need to stop and talk to you just for a moment. And once you arrive, you look them dead in the eye and you say, I love you. And you hug them. You embrace them as if you would never see them again. You will be surprised at how powerful love is. But you know what? Love starts again when your children are in your arms. Stop letting other people raise your children for you. Be the mom, be the dad, be there for your children. Don't just be physically present in your home. Be emotionally present for your children. Stop allowing electronics, PlayStations, and Xboxes, and laptops and tablets raise your children. Stop letting the schools raise your children. Stop letting the neighborhood children influence and raise your children. They belong to you. They belong to us. You put value in your own children. You express to your own children how much you care for them. You make them feel validated by holding them on a regular basis. Sometimes when they're around their classmates or their friends, oh mom, oh dad, when you're hugging them, don't stop doing it. You're doing them the greatest favor in the world. You're teaching them how to love. And you know what? They are going to pass it on. Trust and believe. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was all I had to say today. And for those of you who have followed me these years on this platform, you know that this is my person and this is not contrived. It is not made up. This is who I am. I'm going to tell you as I always do. Yahweh loves you. And I love you. Brother Teacher Reginald loves you as well. Each and every one of you. You have a blessed day or evening, depending on where you are. So long.